Deontay Wilder versus Dillian Whyte could potentially happen if Tyson Fury decides to either retire or doesn't care about the sport of boxing or defend his title. Let's talk about it in this video. King Jr. got another video for y'all. So we have some news here about the whole Tyson Fury situation, where that if Tyson Fury doesn't defend his mandatories or whatever or not, or decides to retire after his last fight, he could potentially be done and that belt will be on the line. So we could potentially get Deontay Wilder back in the mix for another title shot against Dillian the Body Snatcher Whyte. That's if Dillian Whyte is successful against Otto Wallin, which I do not think that he beats Otto Wallin at all, but it's a prediction. But this, in a situation, this puts Deontay Wilder back for a title shot. Now, people want to tell me, King Jr., why Deontay Wilder just cannot just take the WBC route? Why is he only taking that route? Why he can't take the IBF, the WBA, the WBO? Well, I would prefer Deontay Wilder to take the WBA and the IBF, because there's guys in the WBA that Deontay Wilder can knock out easy with breeze. He can definitely, I believe the top guy in that one is Michael Hunter. I think Deontay Wilder knocks out Michael Hunter, and which it puts him in the mandatory spot to fight Alexander Usyk for the WBA championship. And some people even wanted to see Deontay Wilder versus Charles Martin. That's an interesting fight. Deontay Wilder still knocks Charles Martin out, which puts Deontay Wilder in a position to fight Alexander Usyk again. I do not know Usyk's the WBO champion, so Deontay Wilder can take that WBO out as well. I don't know who's really up in the WBO like that, but he can take that WBO route. But I would rather see Deontay Wilder try to get into these other sanctioned bodies, because it will just put him in a position to have a chance to win those other belts as well, because we only seen Deontay Wilder with the WBC belt. But if Tyson Fury decides to drop the belt or do something funny, because the WBC, in my opinion, has a funny feeling that Tyson Fury isn't going to be interested after he fight his last fight. And a lot of people say he don't want that Otto Wallin smoke if Otto Wallin wins, and I wouldn't want that win after Otto Wallin might piece you up again. He might do you even worse. So we might see Tyson Fury get out the sport if he decides to get out the sport. We don't know what Tyson Fury is going to do, but if Tyson Fury decides to vacate that belt, it'll put Deontay Wilder versus Dillian Whyte in the mandatory positions to fight for the belt. Clearly, Deontay Wilder would be number one, Dillian Whyte would be number two. So both of those guys will have a chance to fight for that belt. Dillian Whyte has been basically on the shelf for a long time, waiting to get a mandatory position to fight for a title shot. Some people ask, why did Dillian Whyte just went into the WBC? Dillian Whyte didn't want to take that IBF, WBA, and WBO route. I guess it was hard to him. Well, that's really not a hard route, because there's some guys that Dillian Whyte can beat as well. I'm just not a fan of Dillian Whyte's style, because Dillian Whyte's style is going to get him knocked out eventually. We've seen it with Alexander Perfectin, and Dillian Whyte is probably going to get knocked out again if he fights Wilder. That's if Tyson Fury decides to vacate the belt or do something funny, whatever Tyson Fury wants to do. But I would rather see Deontay Wilder fight guys that's in that WBA ranking system, because this will be the easiest route. I believe Robert Hernandez, Michael Hunter, Daniel Dubois, all those guys are in those different type of ranking systems. And Deontay Wilder, the diehard boxing fans want him to take that IBF route and that WBA route, because that seems to be the easiest route. Well, in my opinion, I would rather him take the IBF more than the WBA, because we talked about it this morning, how the WBA is treating Yordenis Ugas, and we seen how the WBA was treating Manny Pacquiao when he asked to get reinstated back to super champion. So I don't know, the WBA would try to do something fishy, but the WBA is all over the place. Their sanctioning body is looking real bad right now with all the shenanigans they having. But I would rather see Deontay Wilder take that IBF route, because it will put him in the position to be the IBF mandatory to fight Alexander Usyk for those 3 belts. And then Deontay Wilder would be a unified champion if he decides to take that route. But I think Deontay Wilder is focused on the green. I think he wants the WBC belt back. And if Deontay Wilder wins that belt, I think he's going to go after the other ones. Tyson Fury stated out his own mouth he's not interested in fighting Alexander Usyk. I could see why, because Tyson Fury had held all those belts at one time before he tested positive for Nandrolone and served a 2-year ban suspension. And then Deontay Wilder brought him back up his feet, brought him back to the thing of boxing, and you guys know the whole scenario from there. But we could potentially see Deontay Wilder fight Dillian Whyte. This is just, we can see if he's going to fight him. If Tyson Fury decides to do something funny, that fight is high possibility on the table. But in the meantime, Deontay Wilder got to seek another opponent. There's a lot of opponents for Deontay Wilder to fight. I would rather see Deontay Wilder fight Robert Helenius. I think that's a very interesting fight. I think it's a boxer versus a puncher. I'd rather put Deontay Wilder back in the ring with a boxer like Robert Helenius to see what he can do. Because Deontay Wilder is trying to adjust to this new boxer-puncher style that Malik Scott's training him. And I think Malik Scott's going to go all out this time when Deontay Wilder gets ready to get back in the camp and train for the fight after he's done with his 6-month suspension due to his health. I'm really curious to see what Deontay Wilder is going to look like. I think Deontay Wilder is going to look better than ever. His strength and conditioning coach said he was on Tay Jones, so he's going to look even more better. So we got to see what's next for Deontay Wilder in this situation. If something funny happens with Tyson Fury, it just put Deontay Wilder back in the position to win a title shot from an opponent that I don't think that has a shot to beat Deontay Wilder. In my opinion, Dillian Whyte has a cheating/puncher's chance, because Dillian Whyte sees that Deontay Wilder has a weak spot, and I think Dillian Whyte is going to try to do whatever he takes to cheat Deontay Wilder and try to hit him in the back of the head or whatever, not to weaken up that weak spot Deontay Wilder has suffered from Tyson Fury gloves. But I absolutely have Deontay Wilder obliterating Dillian Whyte, and I also have Otto Wallin upsetting Dillian Whyte, and Otto Wallin would be the mandatory to fight Deontay Wilder versus Otto Wallin if Tyson Fury decides to either continue with the fight or vacate the belt. But in the meantime, y'all know the deal is. It is what it is. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. This is your boy King Jr. I'm out of here. Peace.